the show.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. So we got some fun news coming up. And we've got an interview sometime today. So that may jump in the break of fun news or whatever. She'll be calling in as soon as she can. So we're going to be talking about some ghost hunts.
Yeah.
It's kind of a kick of mine. I want to find ghosts. I want to see them. Well, I don't want to see them or find them. I want people who find them and see them to tell me about it.
You don't want to see them. They can't hurt you.
How do you know?
I don't. But see, that's the difference. Aliens, I mean, could hurt you. Ghosts seem very, benign to me.
All right. Let's hit the intro. And they're not benign. I've seen Poltergeist. Go to sit down. The chair's gone.
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes, definitely.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
To cover up our mistakes.
I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot.
Join us for a journey into the obscure.
You are now listening to The Wow Pod. So.
It always sounds like at the end of that it says something like, revealed to you. I was wondering, what?
I like how she says, phenomena.
She?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Weird news. You want me to go first? You want to go first? We've both got two stories today, right?
Yeah, I'll go first because I'm lined up. We'll just go right on through the order of the hominas.
Okay. So
sound good?
All right.
All right.
Let's hear it.
I've got a crazy story coming out of Ohio. And it's been talked about on the news quite a bit. And I do know that I am not comfortable with it.
This story makes me uncomfortable.
It does. It makes me very uncomfortable. Apparently, I've forgotten how to share on this.
That makes me uncomfortable.
There we go. Man, how is it for Jared? Okay, so, all right. There's now a lady in Ohio named Josie. Up until a little while ago, the name was Joseph Matthew Smith.
Oh. That's one way to switch up Joe, if that's your name.
Yes. Joseph was sentenced to prison in 2015 for a second-degree sexual abuse in 2012. He molested a child.
Okay.
So
born Joseph,
they believe,
commits this crime,
yes,
sentenced a year later.
They believe it's Joseph has molested as many as 15 children, ranging in ages from 1 to 13. And this is a report that was prepared by Dr. Jeffrey Davis, the state expert. Now, if you're looking at colleges, at a future career, why, God, would you pick sexual child abuse as your focus? I mean, it does a lot of good, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, you'd carry around a lot of residual
it's horrible
garbage.
Anyways, so Joseph, in the convening 5 years, has decided to undergo a sex change. And maybe this is a test to see if this works. But if it does work, it'd have to be a voluntary thing. Although I'm okay with, capital punishment for child molesters, especially repeaters. But that's just my personal feeling. I know a lot of people aren't. But he began taking hormone treatment in 2017, so 2 years after he got in. And the state believes that because of the lower testosterone levels, he won't recidivate, or he won't,
Commit
molest
again.
children again. But they've proven, or it has been shown, that even when they're castrated, they still go back and molest again. So I don't know.
Well, this would set the precedence that the introduction or deduction of testosterone has more to do with crimes of this nature than psychological issues, and I don't buy that argument, because I don't think it's a sexual issue. I think it's a power issue.
Yeah, I don't either. And I have a couple other arguments with it. One, there is a punishment aspect to prison in the United States. I understand that a lot of other nations are playing with the idea that we don't punish. But to me, there is a punishment issue. Also, if this does work, are we going to see this introduced into all convictions, Because, if it works for this, well, why not bank robbery? Why not everything else? But then again, we empty the prisons.
Yeah, I think they're missing the point, though, because I don't think the motive in most cases, specifically of child sexual predators, the motive is generally not gratification. And oftentimes there isn't any gratification taking place. It's a power trip.
Yeah, and the gratification comes from the harming of them, not
Correct.
Specifically sex act, especially with a 1-year-old.
Correct. So
Seriously.
I don't think that hormones have as much to do with that as perhaps, childhood trauma or brain chemistry.
And I wonder what this lady's future's going to look like. Still, she's not going to have much luck on the bar scene before midnight 30.
Yeah.
I guess
you gotta get your beer bottle goggles on.
Lose the beer.
The 5 o'clock shadow.
Now, this area up here, just above the eyes, above the nose and the eyes, is prominent.
Amazing things happen to facial, the way that the fat is deposited when they start taking estrogen. It's crazy.
Well, she's been on it for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, that's as good as it gets.
So
we're sorry, Josie.
Now she is a shoo-in for the next Geico Cave Woman commercials. We throw her in a Betty Rubble dress.
We're gonna put her in the pool for that.
And and she can gripe at the guy for not understanding why she knows what a latte is, or whatever they're going to do in their next iteration. But look at those brows on that young lady.
Ay. All right.
I just don't know how. I don't know how this is going to work.
I think they're missing the boat. I think it's a shitty attempt to mask an otherwise very serious issue. I think that the thing that's been proven to reduce recidivism rates to almost nothing,
death,
is jail time. Very, very, very few offenders who go into our system specifically as child sexual predators come out and do it again.
Yeah, well,
and because there is that form of punishment.
Well, there's also that, and then they get put on a list, and their neighbors know, and everyone.
Correct. They're held at arm's length, but the recidivism rate is really not that high. So this again, I don't believe that the propensity to do these kinds of crimes goes away when you go to jail. I don't think that's it at all. You're missing the boat.
Yeah,
they need psychological help. There's something.
There's also an age range in males.
Sure.
That age from 15 to 35. I mean, males are just dog shit. And maybe that's another part of it. Get them through that age.
Yep.
you know, and granted, I'm all for prison reform. We need to get people out of the prison system and lower that dependency for the state to, you know, all the shitty things that happen there. And one day I'd like to do a story on that, where prisoners are commonly used as slavish labor, and
Yeah. Well, I think
deals are made, and it's corrupt. And
I think that in this case, and in any case of child abuse, there's an actual victim.
and there
It's
is.
not a victimless crime. So,
Can we just start an island?
yeah.
And a trebuchet could be a good means to get to said island.
You and your trebuchet. He's going to build a trebuchet large enough to launch large items.
A human one day. And I think that'll be the next test. Can we launch a human through a trebuchet and they live? I think trebuchets are in. But anyways, back to the island. A large island, a big net. They get caught. They land down. All the thirsty dudes grab them and have their way with them, and then they assimilate into society and wait on the next Thursday when we throw the next molester over there, and then if we ever see a watercraft launched from there, Hellfire missile, just knock it out.
Yeah.
But
I like the preventative approach that I think is becoming more popular. Creating spaces where people who are feeling this propensity
a place they
can go and they can talk freely, and then they can be given some help before they ever harm anybody.
Step one, we've got to figure out how to teach people to parent.
Yeah.
You look at all these,
Right.
every of these tragedies has crappy parents.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got to get past that. Anyways, that's my story. So that's kind of a big controversy right now. It's kind of a big deal,
Interesting.
you know. And Betsy, she has a story for us now.
Oh, so this one's been all over Facebook, so everyone's probably heard of it. But I did want to, I wanted to get it into our historical recordings because this story is fantastic.
Call this literal.
Comes from Pensacola, Florida. Go, Florida!
Yeah.
Yes! You're
Florida.
killing it. 2 men pulled over Saturday in Florida for speeding. A state trooper found a bag inside their car with the words, "Bag full of drugs," printed on the outside. When the trooper peeked inside, he found the bag was indeed full of drugs.
Bag full of drugs.
Okay.
Did he have any other bags in there? Bag full of toiletries. Bag full of money for gas.
Okay, so Lieutenant Robert Cannon of the Florida Highway Patrol, he's got a pretty funny sense of humor about this. He goes on to say that not only can our dogs sniff out drugs, but they can also read. That's what that's what he says. But he also goes on to say that this is not a typical way that these drugs are transported. And
let's just go through real quick what they had.
Okay, so inside the bag,
They had meth.
yes, they had 75 grams of methamphetamine.
Okay, that's a substantial amount, I
Oh,
suppose.
yes. 1.36 kilograms of GHB.
Now, what is GHB?
GHB is a sedative.
Okay.
It's often mixed with, they call them 8 balls, I believe, where they mix an upper and a lower, an upper and a downer, so that
just to keep you where you are?
just to keep you where you are, apparently.
That sounds like
Yeah.
why.
Now, 1 gram of cocaine, that's not a lot, still
Okay.
illegal. 15 MDMA tablets,
Okay.
which are like a psychotropic drug.
MDMA is ecstasy.
Yes. And 3.6 grams of fentanyl.
Okay, so
Now,
it sounds
fentanyl-
like they were heading to
They're bringing their bag.
a
They're going
reasonable sized party.
They're going to a potluck. That's
They're
their
heading-
potluck bag.
Yeah, they're heading to a small party. Maybe they got some strippers on the hook, whatever.
I'm seriously going to go home, and we're making us a bag full of drugs to keep in the podcast room. I'm going to print it. I'm going to put it on the bag.
Oh,
we're We're going to put it up in the podcast room.
I'm going to have to redress the podcast room every time I do my other podcast now.
So the driver, Ian Christian Simmons, and his passenger, Joshua Michael Reinhardt, both 36, were arrested and booked into the Santa Rosa County Jail without chance for bond. They're both charged with possession of drug equipment because there was paraphernalia, obviously, for the measuring and cutting and sorts, and 2 counts apiece of drug trafficking because there was, and this is considered an extraordinary, both in amount as well as the types of drug. For instance, fentanyl.
Fentanyl that's the killer right now.
So fentanyl is the reason that troopers no longer unwrap drugs because it's so dangerous that even rubbing it on your fingers
contact can kill you.
Yes, will kill you. And they're cutting this into drugs and killing people who have no idea that it's even in there.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of fentanyl from China right now, and it's becoming a huge issue. It's the big killer right now, you know.
So I think aside from the giant or the bag full of drugs, literally, the thing that surprised me the most is how they were caught. They're driving a gray Kia sedan. It was traveling at 95 miles per hour with a bag full of drugs inside.
So if you're making the deal, do you haul ass?
Well, it does increase your chances of getting caught significantly.
Like quadruples them.
Yes. So if you're carrying your bag labeled bag full of drugs and you've actually filled it full of drugs, you may want to keep a low profile. Like do the speed limit, wear your seatbelt, listen to some Sinatra on the radio, you know, whatever Florida actually looks like.
Dress business casual.
Yes.
Actually, you wear a suit jacket, push the sleeves up.
Yeah.
Drive a Ferrari, maybe a speedboat.
Well, there you go.
Flamingos. I've seen that show.
Bag full of drugs. People, we can't make this up. This couldn't be made up in a movie with Will Smith.
No.
Or Will Ferrell, I mean. It couldn't. You couldn't think of these things.
It's kind of insane.
They're bringing it. Florida. We love Florida.
All right. I'm taking us back to Florida.
Yes.
So back in Florida again, because, you know, that's seems to populate most of our news. A roving band of feral, herpes-ridden monkeys is roaming across northeast Florida.
Mm-mm.
It
needs to be open season.
The STD-addled rhesus macaques. Seriously. Who? Why?
I don't know what that is.
Did they?
Macacas? I don't know.
Good hell. Well, they're monkeys. They're little monkeys. They had previously been confined to Silver Spring State Park near Ocala, Florida. But now they're spotted away, miles away in Jacksonville, St. John, St. Augustine, Palatka, and Willaca, and Elkton. Good God, why?
So they were in.
I'm okay. One. Who gave these poor monkeys the herpes?
That's a very good question.
2. How long have we known these poor monkeys have had the herpes? You know, can't we just load up the penicillin dart guns?
Herpes is not curable even in humans. Once you got it, you got it.
Well,
it's yours forever.
Good hell. So they're an invasive species, these macaques. They're from Southeast Asia. And they carry herpes B. What is herpes B? Is that the...
That's a type of simplex. So herpes comes in several simplex.
Okay.
I believe herpes B is the STD version where you get...
The junk herp?
The junk herp, where you get it not just, around your nose and lips and things, but you get it all over your body. You can get it on your legs, your arms, your hands, wherever. And it's recurring. It's chronic.
So now cold sores are related to it, right?
Yes, but they're a different. That's a herpes simplex A.
Herpes simplex, not simian monkey.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But who gave it to these monkeys? And
Okay.
Did you see the teeth on that? Look at the teeth.
So tell me again. Monkeys started in an enclosure, a zoo?
I don't know if it was a zoo or an enclosure, but maybe it just said a state park. So it may not be an enclosure. That's just where they hang out.
Because they're not native.
No, they're from Asia.
So they were brought here and introduced. I'm guessing they would have had to have been in an enclosure of some kind.
Okay, here's a little more of the story. In 1984, the Florida Game and Freshwater Fish Commission allowed licensed trappers to cull the population by trapping and hunting, and over 1,000 of the monkeys ended up in zoos or research facilities or were simply killed. So, I imagine
So since
that went
then,
over.
since 2012, there's been no active management?
Oh.
Excellent, Florida.
It sounds like
Keep your feral herpes infected monkeys there.
When they shot 1,000 of these little bastards, these little herp monks, I'm sure that there was an uprising. There was. Could you imagine doing that today?
Save the herpes monk. Save the herpes monk.
Now, do they commonly have herpes where they're from? Because did we bring over a herpes monkey and he was patient zero for all the other monkeys?
Given how feral they are.
Or did they come over here and a couple of dough heads in a Kia stopped on the side of the road, just had that itch and had to throw one at the herp monk?
You see those teeth? I doubt very seriously that's how they contracted it.
You know how you could treat that? Fentanyl.
Yes.
So that teeth would bite the shit out of you.
So I'm guessing that it would have had to been an introduction because it's passed down from mother to child. So
now it says they're not going to come up and interact with us, so that's a good sign.
I don't imagine.
So I mean, is there cases where they can contaminate us?
I think we run the risk.
If he
anytime.
sat there and smiled, he'd look kind of cute, but that teeth, and look at that. Where did that tooth go? What did you do there? Did you bite it off in someone and leave it in them?
That's kind of scary, Florida.
Florida, bringing
Florida. Okay, my last story. I'm going to leave you with something that'll give you nightmares. Doctors performed this MRI scan after this gentleman shows up to a hospital in Texas. The man, known only as Gerard or Gerard, he's a Spanish guy.
Hispanic or Spanish?
Hispanic, living stateside. He visited a doctor after experiencing headaches that were so severe they were causing him to vomit. So the doctors at Ascension Medical Center performed these MRI scans of this guy's brain, which reveal, as you can see, the area that they've shaded in red for those of us who cannot read an MRI. That is a tapeworm. It's called a Taenia solium tapeworm.
How did it get there?
So this is what's really gross. They believe that Gerard likely got the tapeworm from food he ingested.
From an undercooked pig. Now, let me go through and tell you what I see now.
Tapeworm eggs on it.
Okay, I can read some of this. Thumb, pen, finger.
Index finger.
That says something in English. Tags. Okay, I think that's a head.
That's the brain. That's a cross-section of it.
Okay, that's the brain, mouth, nasal cavity.
Yep. There's his spinal
throat
column.
Would be right here. Mm-hmm. Spinal column comes up into the bottom part of the brain, and that's all tapeworm at the bottom part of the brain.
That's all tapeworm. Yeah, so it actually ended up being a fairly large tapeworm, and they believe that it had been there for a decade. So they have to go in and do...
that poor guy, look at him. I had what?
Yeah, that's the stuff that.
Is that the tapeworm?
Yes. So you see, it's not what you would think a tapeworm would look like. It's not super long. It's actually got very round parts on it, but the top of the part,
this bubbly area?
Yes, at the very top of that, it was actually feeding.
Off its brain?
Yeah. So apparently these tapeworms lay eggs on whatever, and if it's not cooked thoroughly enough to kill the actual eggs themselves, or cleansed really well, if it's a fruit that you don't cook, generally you'll find these tapeworms in meat. They believe that he ate undercooked pork, and there's an actual surgical picture of them, digging in there to get it out. It's pretty terrifying. Pretty terrifying, for sure.
Oh, in his head.
Yeah.
He's got a 1,000-yard stare. I'll bet
they say that he's back to work. He's recovering well. And
it's tough people. Some tough people out there.
The surgical emergency found a solitary cluster containing one large larva near the brainstem.
Did they maybe do some tests on him, see if there's an enzyme that they can detect in maybe your bloodstream that's different from other people, that we can detect it in the future? It
doesn't go on to say that, but they are developing some pretty unique ways of identifying microorganisms, without invasive surgery. So likely that's a scary surgery.
That's
a
going
story for the future.
Into your bucket.
Ooh. Yeah. So I never want to hear you have a parasite living inside you.
No.
Ever.
Nope.
That's too much for me.
Nope.
I can't fathom thinking about that.
No. All right. So before our guest calls in to talk about some ghost haunting, so we are relaunched on with the new name, and we're still putting things up under the old name, so that hopefully people
just until the relaunch is complete.
Yes. So we're on all the things under the WoW Pod, and all the old shows most of the old shows are getting transferred onto the new one as well. Just so we keep that track record, and we'll be shutting down the Weird Obscure World podcast, the old one, probably a month from today, somewhere around there. But up until that point, we'll keep posting it on both of them. And so if you get the chance, go over to look for the WoW Pod. The reason we did it's an easier name to...
it's much easier to search,
to type in,
to find, to put for logos and things.
Yeah.
We're still the Weird Obscure World podcast, but the website and other supporting pages will be the WoW Pod, just to make it easier.
Yeah, easier to spell. I mean, weird is an I before E, except after C, but wait a second. And then you've got obscure. I know I have to stare at the corner of my eyebrow when I type in some things. I'm not the brightest human, and so I imagine that maybe some of my listeners might be along my level of expertise on spelling. But yeah, so go over to the WoW Pod, and also we're still trying to push the numbers up. We want to become viable. So if you can, go on to iTunes and give a rate and review there. That would help out a lot.
Yeah, iTunes is still kind of the
still the number one home.
The leading podcast catcher, and because
iTunes,
of that,
Apple
right
podcasts.
Because of that, we would like to have a good rating and a lot of reviews on that particular one. any podcast catcher that you're on. If you don't have access to iTunes, we would love a rate and review there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we're on YouTube still under the same old the YouTube.
Word Obscure World.
Yeah, Word Obscure World. We haven't dove into changing that yet. But everything's still going to keep going up on those things. So, yeah. But today, I'm excited.
Ghosts.
Yeah,
we do have quite a following for our ghost stories. People really like the
I really
esoteric subject matter. It's a thing.
We've got a lady calling in who does some ghost hunts.
Now, I've always wondered how you get into that. Do you just... I mean, I would like to do a ghost hunt. I always wondered how
you get into the Sunday morning TV fishing shows.
I mean, do you just show up with a pole? Do I just show up with one of those readers? Is that what I do?
Yeah, how do you those people who do the Sunday morning fishing, I think they've got it made.
Yeah.
Made in the shade. That's what I want to do for a living. But
here we are.
Yeah, we're going to wait for her to call in. I think we're going to pause the recording until she does call in. That way you don't listen to me prattle on forever. But, ghost hunting, excited. And next week we've got another one dialed in who does ghost hunting as well.
Excellent.
So this episode might either have 2 ghost hunters, depending on how much time each of them have, or might get 2 episodes out of 2 ghost hunters. We'll find out. Right?
I am Sierra Vista, Arizona.
I was just down there.
Crazy.
What?
Literally, you're down there all the time.
3 weeks ago. My brother's down there at Huachuca.
Yes, Huachuca. Fort Huachuca, I know, is one of the oldest military posts. It's got a lot of cool stuff going on there.
Where the Buffalo soldiers were.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Have you always had this belief in ghosts and...
Yes. Yeah, since I was a little girl, it's just been something I've been, fascinated with. And, the older I get, the more interested I become, obviously, learn a little bit more about it. And so I actually carry a DVR in my purse. I like the old cemeteries, typical stuff like that. I have friends that I would go out with. I haven't done it in a while, but I always get the gut internal feelings, you know what I mean? My very first experience was my grandfather when I was about 13. So ever since then, it kind of opened the door for me.
Your grandfather came and visited you when you were about 13?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you will.
He was a veteran, got pretty sick for the last couple of years. I was about 12 when he got sick, and he just went downhill, would have a tube in his throat to feed him, and then it got switched to his stomach. So he suffered pretty bad towards the end, but he was always a hermit growing up. He never really showed affection, just kind of stayed in his room, and I loved him to death. But by the time he passed, he was in the hospital, and I was downstairs. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning, and I remember getting up, going downstairs to get some milk. And I sat there drinking my milk in the living room. It was pitch black, and all of a sudden, he walked by me, just walked right in front of me. And I was looking at him completely disbelief. I was a kid. And it happened 2 more times, just walked right in front of me. And as soon as he hit the 3rd time right in front of me, I said, "Papa." And he turned and he looked at me, and he had tears streaming down his face, and he had his arms held out, and he said to me, "Nikki, I never told you I loved you, but I love you. And tell your mother that I love her." And I woke up in my room the next morning, and I thought to myself, wow, that's a scary dream. And I told my mother about it. By the time we went back downstairs, my cup of milk was still sitting there on the table.
Oh, that's
I don't
more than a dream.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a dream to me. And when I woke up in my room, it was a little, till this day, I'm 40 years old. Until this day, that was the one thing that got me going in it. I was curious.
Wow.
So do you do this as a hobby on the side? Go and do investigations into paranormal activity?
When I can. I'm not part of a group or anything. I'm looking. I do live theater as well, too. So I'm kind of busy at this time. So I kind of go off and venture on my own. I'm
alone?
Yeah.
Is there spooky cemeteries down there? Like
In
I know
Fort Huachuca.
they've got the old Fort Huachuca cemetery that's down there right before you hit Post. It's off to the north side or the west side of the road, and I've often thought, it'd be cool to go. I go down there, I don't know, every couple months to visit my brother, and maybe next time I'm down, we'll have to go.
Check it out. I used to go there with a girlfriend of mine. We used to bring our DVRs down there.
Now, what's the DVR?
Digital voice recorder.
Okay. You're gonna.
That's the one that changes it to words that we recognize, or does it just
EVPs.
record? Okay.
It just records. It doesn't change it. It's not like part of the stereo, the reception from a stereo or anything like that. It just records your voice, but it also will pick up whatever you can't hear. So it'll record your EVPs as well too.
So what model of ghost hunting DVR would you suggest?
I actually just went to Lowe's one time and just bought the cheapest one, and I love it. And I can't remember what it is right now. It's in my purse, but
what's the most amazing DVR that you've ever caught?
The most amazing sound.
Yeah.
EVP. I lost a boyfriend when I was about 14 or 15 years old, and it bothered me for a long time. Of course, it was one of those where it was like a crush that never got, any
no closure.
So it always, no closure. And so my girlfriend and I, who actually would go onto the Post and get some EVPs there at the cemetery you're talking about, we were sitting in my apartment one night and we were having a few beers and, playing around with the Ouija board and being typical, you know what I mean? And I was talking about
typical,
Eddie. Being typical.
All over the place. Jared didn't even see his first one until he was 45, but just you're typical.
We were having fun. And so I started talking about Eddie and I was describing him. And then during, our playback when we were listening to the EVP, when I was describing him, we heard it was a male's voice say, "That's right, sweetheart."
Oh.
Clear as day. And it was just the two of us.
So weird.
Yeah.
So what is because I think that this is something that is personal for everyone, but what do you think, are these spirits here on Unfinished Business? Are they just here all the time? Do they stay here? Is here really the only here? And are there demons? I have so many questions.
Yeah. Do you have any scary ones? Do you have any ones that made you go, I'm going to go somewhere else?
Scary? No. I really feel like it all resolves back to like a past life thing that I believe in really strongly. I feel like we were here on Earth to learn lessons, and I feel like there's karmic relationships that people will have with each other that to me would be demonic in a way, if you consider it more of like a here on Earth sort of thing, like a really bad relationship. Somebody broke your heart. Like, why did I meet you? But it's a karmic relationship. You had a meeting of the souls when you were, not here on Earth at some point to learn those lessons. I feel like we all knew each other at some point. I feel like we don't really leave. There is a different dimension. I feel like we're not supposed to obviously be tapped into that dimension, but it does slip through. And it is really personal. A lot of the experience that I've had has been extremely personal. I have had a lot of death around me. Almost everybody I know. I'm kind of a loner right now because of it. But I recently lost a boyfriend again this last June, and I had every.
Sorry to hear that.
It's okay. He took his life, and unfortunately, it was his choice. But I literally had every textbook thing that you can possibly happen within a 12-hour period after he passed, and it just confirmed it for me.
So, like orbs and things like that, you had all of that.
I literally had from the dreams, of the visitation dreams, the confirming that he's okay, all the way up to my lights flashing on and off, to being touched, to weird phone calls with just certain numbers on them, like angel numbers, and then I would look those numbers up, and it would be like,
what's an angel? Okay, you're talking to a guy knows nothing. What's an angel number?
An angel number is like 111 is the most famous angel number.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The ones.
Any recurring numbers? I actually shared it on the 2/2 of 2020. It's the first palindrome day in 900 years or something.
All right. Again, what's a palindrome?
mom. You switch it. It's
Yeah, where the numbers are the same backwards as they are forward.
Okay.
dad.
See, yeah, I'm unfamiliar with a lot of these things. I may do a podcast on it, but I'm learning.
Yeah, they're fantastic. 111 is the best one. That's the Make-A-Wish one. If you see 111, you have good thoughts during that time and put good vibes into the atmosphere.
So
and
instead of 1111, you do 111.
No,
Yeah.
1111 is the good one. But yeah, you can do 111.
Yeah.
But see, like the angel numbers that I was getting with Chris after he passed were weird. I've never heard of them before. I actually had to Google them. It was odd numbers like 623, and it would be like somebody calling me
Right.
from that number, and that is obviously not a number. So I would look it up. And it would,
So
yeah.
they can the people on the other side can tap into your phone.
That's the only way that they can. I mean,
So
electronically.
electronics are when that was invented and designed was a way to pierce that veil.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people kind of used it, like, oh, look, it can happen, so now it's going to only happen that way type of thing. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the past life thing, we've encountered that quite a bit. We've had past life regressive therapist on who talked about that a lot, and how you kind of run in tribes, in groups that commonly associate with each other. So that's interesting to ponder that.
Have you ever had really? Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're the one you're the center of the show. If you got to talk, you talk.
Well, it goes along with the karmic relationships as far as twin flames. I mean, you guys have ever met somebody where it's like, oh my God, I've known you before, or we just get along so well and I just met you. And
She may have. This is my first go around. We figured that out. So
we've both had hypnotic regressive therapy into past lives.
Right.
And he's convinced that this is his first time. I would almost agree with that.
Yeah. It's my first go around.
You would know. Most definitely you would know. You feel it. It's literally like electricity. If you meet somebody, you're like, damn, I know you. Or,
Yeah.
Well, everyone else, you hear people, they go back and they see scenes or whatever. I just saw like colors. It was weird. It was different. I didn't see any. What's that?
Auras?
No, it was like I was standing on the other side of Bob Ross's canvas. Just colors going across and stuff. I saw a glimpse of two faces, but no real.
He didn't get any discernible storyline to go with it.
Yeah. So either I'm perfect or it's my first go around.
A lot of people are closed off to it still.
Yeah.
I think it starts off meditation. I mean, if you meditate, right before bed, one of my favorite meditations that I've always done since I was a kid, I use a purple light. For some reason, I like purple. And I would envision this purple light at the bottom of my feet, and I would just envision it slowly going up my body. I would feel it taking away any pain in my legs, and I would do that all the way up to my head. And at the end of it, I'd either be asleep or I'm extremely relaxed. But that's one way of getting yourself used to the surrounding environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
More open.
Have you ever had an experience with an energy that you knew was negative? Like you could just tell that this was a really bad energy? Or do you believe that it's just interpretation? Like all energy is just energy?
I feel like it's interpretation. I have kind of an example right now that's going on in my life, and it's a living person, and it's more of the gut feeling energy that I get from them. If that makes sense. It's not just walking into a room and, feeling something negative there. Again, I think that's up to interpretation, but you can feel that with the living as well. I'm dealing with somebody who I thought I was crazy about, and then he's just giving you that really weird feeling, you know what I mean, to where you just kind of want to back away. So to me, that's the negativity. If you don't follow that, then you're going to get sucked into something you don't want to. And
yeah.
Have you ever been scared ghost hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to that cemetery by the Clown Motel. What was that one?
Yeah.
We did a tour following Area 51 where we stopped in at a couple of places. One was a really cool old schoolhouse, lots of energy. They'd actually had several of the ghost hunting shows, paranormal shows from television, come in and do shows there, and they had had these really cool experiences with spirit boxes.
Oh,
and that was cool, but it was really eerie to go to the Clown Motel.
The Clown Motel.
I heard they were putting it up for $1 million too.
Oh, well, a
The
guy
guy had
just
just
bought
bought it
Yeah.
when we
did
went
he?
there.
And
Yeah.
a guy that loves clowns, and the place is kind of cool. He decorated it up and made it nice,
Yeah.
but the
Isn't that
center
in Tonopah or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is
Tonopah.
there's
The
one
Tonopah?
there's one room that we went into that I instantly felt negative energy.
Oh yeah, he has 2 rooms decorated up scary. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You just walked in and just instantly felt afraid, or
Yeah.
now
yeah.
I've only really had one instance in my adult life where I felt like there was something there, and that's the one I told you about when I had the
out on the reservation.
No, the girlfriend. That was when I was a kid.
Oh.
Heck, I was
well,
probably-
as you're a kid, you're more susceptible, I believe.
I
You're
was
not tainted by everyday life.
yeah.
Drop.
Yeah.
But one, I was probably, I don't know, in my 30s, and over at her house, and there was a feeling in that closet. I slept with my eyes wide open. Tired.
Oh God, it's scary. That's where my boyfriend passed recently. Was he took himself in a closet, and so the owners didn't say anything when they sold the house again, and so till this day I'm sitting back knowing what happened, and they
Is
don't know.
that
And to me,
is that
that's
not in the Arizona law? You don't have.
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
You can usually
But he
get
was the one
away with it.
Yeah, I think you have to report deaths within like 7 years or something. I
Within 7
stayed
years, so the people could move in. Poltergeist shit
7
going down.
7 years
Going
of
down.
craziness.
They've lost 3 children to the television. They've had 4 midgets come in and talk funny, and then they can say,
Then they find
"Oh
out."
yeah, guess what? All the Indians."
I don't know. I was sad about it, but at the same time, I'll drive by that house every day and know and be like, do they know? I don't want to be that creepy old man or, from Poltergeist that knocks on the door. Like, do you know what happened here?
Yeah.
But-
you got to get the old Mormon clothes and whistle as you walk up the driveway.
The
But
briefcase.
there's when you came and visited out here, did you ever visit the Copper Queen Hotel out in Bisbee? That's a good one.
No, I
Now,
want to go out there.
I have been to Bisbee. I used to have accounts in that territory. I've been to that hotel, but I've never spent a lot of time there.
Well, my next time down will be my last time because my brother's retiring. So,
Oh, no. Enjoy it.
yeah. So I'm going to go down there. Well, yeah, I need to go down there. Now it'll be good for Betsy because she'll get to see him more often. He's moving back up here with his wife and kids. But I'm single and my kids all grown up. So I get to
Yeah.
travel. I have that opportunity where the rest of the siblings still have little kids. So I go.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I chased him to Georgia all the time, Maryland, and now Arizona, and so yeah. Next time I go down there, I'm going to plan a trip. I want to go out to Bisbee. Also, one of my favorite comedians lives out there.
Yeah, right on. When you go out there, book the Julia Lowell room.
Julia Lowell at the what
Yeah,
hotel?
I stayed in that room. It was on Ghost Hunters when they were still, fully Ghost Hunters years ago. Julia Lowell was a prostitute that, of course, fell in love with somebody. He didn't feel the same. She wound up dying, and that was her room that she used to bring everybody to. And it actually says it on the door. It says the Julia Lowell, Lowell, I think. And so it's actually broadcasted on Ghost Hunters where she only comes to men. So, on the actual show, there's a videotape in the room. Yeah, there's a
What
videotape
if
in
I
the
stay in
room.
the room next door and hire a patron to stay in the room?
But the video, the videos of this ghost supposedly pushing the bed sheets up off one of their feet. So I stayed in that room.
Record
Yeah,
that.
You're dressing up like a dude. I'll be across the hall.
but I stayed in that room with a boyfriend of mine at the time, and I walked into the room, and instantly the ceiling fan just spun around maybe 3 times, and after that, nothing happened. So I was really disappointed. So maybe if you
Dad,
stay,
you walked into her territory. What are you doing?
I know. I was
So
disappointed.
how often do you get out and actually get to hunt or experience phenomenon like this?
In the last couple of years, I haven't done too much. Aside from my own personal experiences with loved ones. I haven't been able to get out, just haven't had anybody to go with lately, and I kind of want to be with somebody for safety reasons around here.
Oh yeah. Well,
So yeah, so I'm
not
actually
just that,
looking.
but what if the ghost nabs you and next thing you know,
Yeah,
you're possessed and
kicks me into
Oh,
the grave with them there.
Oh, and that's another question. Have you ever been like had the physical feeling of being touched?
Yes.
she just said she did with her late boyfriend.
Chris,
Really?
yeah, my boyfriend. When I had that 12-hour period, it felt like I had to look down at my leg because it felt like my pants were being pulled on. And so I would look down without even moving, and I just had that sensation of like being tugged.
And I'll bet that was
weird.
weird for you because you're probably in a daze anyway because you just lost your boyfriend, and then all these occurrences happen. That's a lot to go through.
Well, unless
I really, yeah, I took it as like confirmation, and it helped me heal, to be honest with you.
Okay, kind of him saying goodbye.
do you have any other abilities? Because it sounds to me like you're like really like okay with all of this, but that comes with people who also have clairvoyance and things like that.
It's not a clairvoyance. It's and I can't remember off the top of my head. I haven't really read too much about it. It's something I need to, but it's like clairsendent, where you can kind of know what's going to happen, like more of a knowing. But I always try to
visual. You just know what's coming.
Yeah, like I can walk into a room and see that paper fall on the floor, and like 2 seconds later, like I can see it happening before I can even react to it. And I've had that my whole life, and I try not to. The older I get, I try not to read too much into that because I don't want to take it as negativity, because you can turn that around easily and make it negative.
Oh yeah.
That's so common though. People who have a lot of occurrences or notice, because I think we all do. It's just most of us don't notice it. You know, like my pant leg gets pulled on, I think that it's my sock.
Yeah, and a lot of people just aren't they're closed off to it.
Yeah, not tuned into it. So we find often that people who also have these other abilities see and sense paranormal activity much more or at a higher rate than other people.
I cherish it. I absolutely cherish it. It's probably out of anything in my life, it's the one thing I love about myself. And I, like I said, I haven't had any negative, scary demon type thing happen, except for like the physical world. To me, humans are more demonic than anything I know it sounds bad, but and their intentions, when you've passed on, you don't have those intentions anymore, you know? I don't think.
You don't have those needs.
Well, I mean, unless you died this horrific, horrible death and you just want to kill everybody in sight. I've never come across anything like that.
Yeah, thankfully I haven't either.
I think it's fabricated.
I've often wondered, like the Warrens, like if some of their stuff is sensationalized, or if it's or if they truly experienced it as being that way because of their interpretation.
I think most of that's been proven, Betsy.
I think so too. Yeah, it's fabricated. Honestly, what was it called? The Amityville Horror is embarrassing. You know
I mean? that was them trying to get out of a home loan, or
27 days. Yeah, blood from the walls. Come on.
Too steep for them. That's all that was.
And everybody who's lived in that house afterwards have never had anything happen. Yeah,
that was. I mean, you've got the family before. The guy was tied into the mafia. The kid was the dad was kind of not a lieutenant, but a sergeant in the mafia car salesman, and the kid was a rich party boy.
Right,
and I
exactly.
Did what, pardon my French, but shithead kids do.
Exactly.
We just
having all those people die in your house is unsettling, but you can also use that to your advantage, and they did, and they made millions and millions of dollars off of it. So. Yeah,
they did. Of course, it broke the family. Destroyed
it. It did. Well, I got to get back to work, you guys. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut it short.
Hey, next time I come down, I'm gonna send you a message and have you give me some things to check out for sure.
Awesome.
Heck yeah, I'd like to tag along too. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Get me out of the
Thanks so
house.
much.
We'll dress you
It was
like
nice
a
meeting
guy
you.
and put you into the Julia Lowell room, and I'll sit in a van down the street with equipment.
She'll uncover your feet for you. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got
All
a
right,
full
guys.
finish.
Oh, all right, Nikki. Thank you very much. We'll talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon.
Yeah. Have
Bye-bye.
a good day.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.